So today's presentation is going to be on mending the bridge between student and professor relationships. My name is Deja Luckett. I am a CTE research analyst. And if you have any questions, please email me at deja.luckett@illinois.gov. So the transition to online learning. Due to COVID, we are forced to have a new standard of educational learning. While we are not in the classroom, it's still important to build or maintain relationships with students that will ultimately lead them to feel comfortable within the educational transition period. And that is definitely the goal for today. The barrier to effective online learning. So it was a study that was done, and they wanted to know why it's a barrier to effective online learning. And why do certain students drop out? So, first, a lack of social and effective communication between the learner and the instructor. So, there's a lack of communication, and it's probably the barrier between physical relationships and trying to maintain a relationship on a screen. So, these dropout rates are attributed to learners' attitude towards the course material as well as the interactions with the instructor. So these are two things to think about. The academic self-efficacy of learners was a significant predictor of the reason why students drop out as well. Learner attitudes and academic self-efficacy have been closely related to the relationship between the learner and the instructor, trying to maintain these relationships. So how they feel about the course, and the relationship between the instructor and the learner. And later on in the presentation, I would definitely give you tips on how to have more interactions with students that are fun and also building relationships. So think about these three things. These are three variables correlated with the positive learner-instructor relationship. So first we have viewing the instructor as a role model. Do students see you as a role model? The approachability of the instructor. Are you an approachable person? Can they come to you and ask questions? The respect that the instructor shows for his or own learners. Do you show respect to your students? So I'm going to go into how to build positive relationships with students. Building empathy. So probably the most important aspect of a positive helping relationship is empathy on the part of the helper. In actual practice, empathy on the part of the student to professor or faculty results in the student feeling misunderstood. So make sure that your student is feeling understood. However, in education, empathy is a concept largely misunderstood and even is seen as a form of affection or caring. Caring and empathy are not the same. So, empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, and caring is displaying kindness and concerns for others. Statistically, empathy shows more results when students are feeling some type of way, and they have a better result when it comes to getting any issue done when it comes to academics or emotional feelings. Caring, I'm an advocate for caring, but empathy is what's really going to help the students succeed. So many educators assume they understand the students' problems and dilemmas and mistakenly try to communicate their understanding in ways that only distance the student. So when it comes to empathy, is being in that student's shoes and not trying to pretend like you understand. For instance, if a student needs an extra day doing a paper and tells you their problem, and your response is that another student had the same problem and they were still able to turn it in, that's an unempathetic response. Every student is different, every relationship is different. Keep in mind, empathy, try to build empathy because ultimately that will help the student succeed. So multicultural connections. Developing relationships with students who come from different backgrounds, race, cultural, social economic status, etc., can be challenging, which requires specific skills from new and experienced teachers. The challenges within different culture encounters lie in overcoming other barriers that prevent teachers from letting down their guard to empathize and develop stronger relationships with students. So it's important that you empathize with students, even if they come from different backgrounds. And due to social, political, and economic inequalities, is really, really important to try to understand the students if they are different from you. So these are typical barriers for learner to instructor when it comes to multicultural differences. So fear of cultural differences is very self-explanatory. Lack of knowledge about differences and similarities between cultures. Negative stereotypes. A general intolerance. So this is how to overcome these barriers. Self-examination, gaining a deeper knowledge about him or herself. It's so good to really self-examine yourself and understand what kind of environment you come from. How it might be different from how your student came from, the environment they came from, and how their lives was probably different. Even different learning styles could be different from some of your students, keeping that in mind. Gaining knowledge about the student culture differences, culture attitudes, differences, beliefs, knowledge, and skills. This is very important for a learner and instructor relationship, that some students come from different educational backgrounds and they might learn differently, or it might take them longer to understand certain material. So being patient, being open, and this will ultimately build this relationship. So how to make lessons fun. So this gets into the portion of the actual teaching online to make things more fun and interactive. So introductions at the beginning of the course. So introductions, and this can go into creating icebreakers. Create fun icebreakers at the beginning. Some students you might know from previous years, and some students might be new, and the first time you're seeing them is on a computer screen. So please try to make the environment as friendly as possible. Use controversial questions. I think a lot of students like different controversial questions that's pertaining to pop culture, things that are happening today in social media, and try to tie that into your lessons. Posing questions that are authentic to yourself and the lesson. Also, not just let the students be open, but be open with your students as well. Student-led discussions. This is a way to keep students engaged. And this also gives you a view on who is engaged in the lessons and who might need help. Student-based discussion boards. So this is the same thing as led discussions, but to the online platform of discussion boards. And it can also have discussion boards when they're pertaining to group activities. Also studying. So student-based discussion boards can really be helpful for the student. So these are general recommendations that I have pertaining to relationships and also how to make fun lessons or interactive lessons. So build authentic relationships inside and outside of the classroom to be supportive. So be open. Make sure that your schedules are transparent on when you are available. Practice mutual respect. Consider that diversity does not refer to only culture. When we talked about the multicultural connections, not just about race, it's also sometimes about social economic status and other attributes that might be different from other students. Show an interest in their lives outside of school. once again, be transparent on when you're available. They might need you for other things. If you're seen as a role model, they might want your advice for other things that's pertaining to life. And you don't have to do it, but I think the student would feel more comfortable if their professor was available. Treat them with respect. Go the extra mile. Incorporate storytelling into lessons. I think this is really fun, and it's a great way for your students to learn about yourself as well. Show an interest in their lives outside of school. Provide structure. Teach with enthusiasm and passion. I had a professor in a course that I didn't really like, but due to how passionate and enthusiastic he was about the course, I really ended up liking the course at the end of the semester. Incorporate humor into lessons. Make learning fun. Use students' interest to your advantage. Once again, controversial questions, things kind of gauge what your students like to talk about and incorporate it in your material. So why educators matter? So it was a study done about from Classroom Smart. This is what the statistics come from. And in it was a study from high schoolers about their overall feelings about education. So in your high school, who helped you make career decisions? So 51% of students said no one helped them make their career decisions. Now, even though this career isn't a part of this presentation, that's a whole nother presentation you can go into, it really shows that how teachers' influences have been decreasing over the years, and how teachers only want to have this one lane of teaching, but the bigger impact is actually really connecting on a personal level. So the teacher influence. Teachers make significant impact on post-secondary enrollment, especially gen ed college students. So first gen ed college students really have an impact on teacher influence. Students receiving encouragement versus students not receiving encouragement is a 10% difference. First gen students not receiving encouragement versus first gen students that are receiving encouragement is a 12% difference. So it's a 10 to 12% difference in general on how students feel about education just by teacher influence alone. And that influence could be grades, career decisions, how they feel about education, how they feel about their transition from high school to college. But this goes to show that professors, faculty, and students' influence on students really matters. So this is my works cited, and thank you for listening in.